Here we go.
Here we go. Okay. All right, Patty, you are good to go.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 6 p.m.
It looks like there's still people in the waiting room.
Yeah, I got him.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to thank everybody. Tonight's my first meeting as the new VAS president, so thank you. I'm very excited about this opportunity and looking forward to working with everybody in this capacity. Recognition of visitors. So we wanted to make sure that we took care of that. So between Cindy and Ruth, do we have what we need? And if not, let me know who, and we'll call out.
I have everybody written down. Unless you wanted to name them.
Who are the ones with the phone numbers?
That's Ed Heberbrand and Lewis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and Ruth Lucas is from Bennington. I believe he's the alternate. He's a new name on here. And who is Jennifer?
Jennifer is the alternate for Addison County.
All right. And I think I know everybody else. Perfect. Excellent. Okay. We're going to do the approval of the agenda. Just one thing I do want to mention that I am going to be doing the treasurer's report tonight to complete the fiscal year of when I was treasurer. So Mark Reeves is going to actually call the motion and take the vote. This doesn't make sense for me to do it in my role. So when we get to that, you'll see him take over for that particular item. Are there any additions or edits to the agenda? All good. So I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Somebody?
Lamoille will make the motion.
Thank you, Dustin.
Washington will second.
Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. I'm going to start with the secretary's report. Everybody should have received a copy of that between Tina and Ruth working on that. Thank you very much. I'm going to need a motion to accept the secretary's report. Or is there any discussion? I should open that up first, right? Any discussion on it? Oh,
No,
yeah.
you do the motion first.
Motions first.
No, Jim Hill is giving me the nod. Discussion first. I saw you, Jim. I zoned right in. So, any discussion on the secretary's report? I thought so too, Cindy, but Jim corrected. Hey, Jim,
Yeah.
you want to say?
No, he's right.
Okay.
Because
Any
basically
discussion?
you're looking for anybody that has any corrections.
Right. That way the motions are clean. Or cleaner. All right. Any discussion on the secretary's report? Okay. I need a motion to accept the secretary's report as presented.
Rutland County.
Thank you, Mike.
Essex.
Addison second.
I got Essex. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, treasurer's report. I'm going to read it, and then Mark, you're up to follow through with it. Got it. Making sure we're in sync. All right, so I did email that out, so you should have a copy. This is the fiscal year end, so these are the numbers through the completion of September. So membership, we had a monthly activity of 2,100, which represents volunteer TMA income. So no new TMAs out of the last fiscal year. And with the $10 increase, we finished the season about 83%. Our membership budget, we brought in $2.3 million. For income, we had 107K in monthly income activity, of which 76 of it was from the Department of Forest and Rec, about 2,700 in sign sales and miscellaneous trails income, 10K in media, and 11K from the SSTP. Our income for the season was about 87% of our budget expectations, or $3.1 million. For expenses, we had 163K monthly expenses, 45 of that is in salaries and benefits, 79 in Okay, in trails expenses, 19 in operating and office supplies, of which 10K was for the TMA forms and decals, or basically the decals at this point, and 7K in property tax. Our expenses for the season came in at 71, almost 72% of the budget, or 2.1 million. We did have about 12K in monthly activity in the regular projects, and we had 44K in flood relief projects. So for the season, we paid out between the flood and the regular about 823K for this last fiscal year. And that's what I have, Mark.
All right, are there any questions on Patty's report? Thank you, Patty, for your service as treasurer, and
Thank you.
we appreciate the reports. Any questions or discussion on Patty's treasurer's report? All right, hearing none, all those, I need a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Windsor County make a motion to accept the treasury report as presented.
All right, thank you, Doug. Do we have a second?
Lamoille will second.
All right, on a motion from Windsor and a second by Lamoille. All those in favor of accepting the treasurer's report, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Mark. I don't think there were any tabled items, Cindy. You can confirm, right? We're good?
There were not.
All right, old business, we have the Waterbury Bridge, that's Matt and Jeff. Where are they? Jeff Halpin, you're on mute if you're. There
Yeah,
you
I'm
go.
just trying, I'm actually pulling up the email. So we literally, about an hour ago, got an email back from the engineers, and I just had time to go over it. I actually received a phone call from Nathan from the Roamers to tell me that the email came in. It was my assumption that Chris was going to take until the November meeting to get us anything together, but they did some preliminary numbers in the email, and it doesn't sound good structurally. Although just looking at it, I have some questions right offhand on the size of the cable and some of the percentages on the engineering. I don't know if Matt's had a chance to look at it yet. What I would like to do with this is it doesn't look good from Chris's preliminary, and it's a far-fetched from the conversation we had out there. Although the conversation we had out there structurally and the banking was the positive part, he thought that it didn't look as bad as the previous write-ups from DeWolf. But now coming into structural and measurements, he's having some mathematic problems where it doesn't add up. But what's strange is that DeWolf's specs basically told us we were okay with the abutments. The abutments were the problem. The cables were fine. And now the math I'm getting back from Chris is basically our cables are not sufficient, which I think his sizing might be a little off. So I put a call into Nathan, and we're going to get out there and we're going to mic the cables and stuff, because I think for some reason he's talking about some size cables that I think ours are larger than. So what I'd like to do with this, if everybody's okay with it, is it's obviously ongoing business. Nothing's going to happen with the bridge this year. We're looking for solid information so that we can make up our minds on what to do with it. I'd like to table this to the November meeting so we can have more structural conversation and have more of a direction with it.
So we'll
Point
put
of
it under.
clarification, you don't need to table it. It can just stay in old business.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that we just need a little more time with the email that just came out tonight. So,
Yeah, I know. I just read it an hour.
yeah.
Hour
And
so ago.
I think, Cindy, I think some of those measurements are off. I think the cable sizing is off and stuff, which might change the math a little bit. So,
We'll keep it under
but
old
anyway,
business for Jeff,
Yep.
that you can give us a more precise readout next month.
yeah, I wanted to speak with Chris, and I
Yep.
also want, before I speak with Chris, I'd like to have my dimensions with the rope sizes and stuff, the cable sizes. So we're going to get out there and get those, and then we'll have a conversation with Chris, and then we'll come up with something, good or bad. Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. Anybody have any questions for Jeff so that he can get answers to for next meeting? And he has, just wait and see what he comes back with, or we good? Okay, thanks, Jeff. All right. So under new business, reserve account allocation, Cindy did send out, it's actually in her package for the surplus, her recommendation. So Cindy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Patty. All right. So I included it with the whole year end. It looks like the budget. It's got yellow. If you look to the last page or 2 pages, if your printer cut you off, the reserves are at the bottom of the last page, second to last page, and the top of the last page. So the recommendations are a total of $500,000. And what that means is this is money that's sitting in the checking account. And we did not move any into reserves last year, at the end of last season. So this year, recommending moving some into reserves. And so it shows the amount I've recommended and then what the total will be once that amount is in there. So for grooming contingency, $50,000, which would bring that up to small print, hang on. 288,000. Vast equipment reserve, 10,000, which would bring it up to 22,000. Building reserve, 10,000, which would bring it up to 36,000. The largest chunks, the emergency reserves, 200,000, which would bring that up to 319. That's due to all the floods and storms that we've had the past couple of years to try to help build that fund up to help for future problems. Disaster relief, same sort of thing as emergency, although this is more just for storms. So that's 150,000. That would bring that up to 361,000. Special projects, 10,000, bringing that up to 62. Club capital fuel, which was what we did a few years ago, but we also call it club equipment reserves, 50,000, which would bring that up to 71,000. And state and multi-use projects, 20,000, which would bring that up to 30. Just to clarify, when we have to do work on state lands that isn't paid for, or the club doesn't have the money, or it's for the LVRT, like we just had to pitch in with the LVRT, redeck a bridge because of the wear and tear from snowmobiles. And then the economic impact one I just put on there, I recommend 0 going into that, but right now there's 69,000 sitting in it.
Thank you, Cindy. So I'm going to open up for questions for Cindy.
What bridge on the LVRT did we redact?
I believe it was up in Franklin County. Matt was the one who was talking to AOT, but I believe it needed, it might even be the big one over the Missisquoi. But that was
Okay.
part of our agreement that we made with them when we did the contract with them, is that they would take over at catastrophic. But if there was damage to the decking, you know, by snowmobiles, that we would at least help with that. And so that's what we just did.
So did
Yeah,
that,
I've seen-
did that
I've seen
fall
that.
on the local club to do the work, or did VAST just give funding for the materials, or how did that work?
VAST just gave funding for the materials. AOT did the work, and I believe AOT also pitched in money. Matt, are
Okay.
you on? Can you?
Yeah, he just unmuted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to talk over anybody. Yes, it was the bridge over the Missisquoi, the big one, which unfortunately doesn't hold snow because it's so big. It's exposed all winter, and you know the studs just chew it up. It's hemlock deck that's on it, and yeah, V-Trans did the work, and we paid half the bill to P&R Lumber for half the decking. None of the labor, just half the deck cost.
What was that cost?
The half of it was, I think, like $7,600.
Dustin,
And
you're
what
good.
if,
Oh, there you
sorry, what if a bridge needs to be redecked, that same bridge 10 years from now, and it's because it's rotten, not from sled damage? Is that something that we're still on the hook for, or
No.
how does that work?
we're only on the hook for slud damage. It's in the contract. So they can just tell when the studs are digging it up.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Cindy?
Yeah, Cindy, can you repeat what you said about the reserves? And was it trail reserves you said that money was going to go into? I can't remember how much you said it was. It was a good
For,
chunk of money.
oh, that's for the emergency reserve and the disaster
Yes.
relief.
Yes. And how much was that again?
Emergency 200,000, disaster relief 150,000.
Okay. All right. So that could be used for trails or whatever disasters we had or bridges or whatever.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
sure.
Anybody else have a question or Cindy?
We putting that money in reserve, are we gonna have trails not open this year because we couldn't fund them?
Yes.
Reserve money can, okay, yeah.
So
Matt said yes, but you could use the reserve money at any time. If Matt has to go into that, he could ask if you move it there, if it's there to be used. Is that correct, Cindy?
Yeah.
You just shifted.
Yes, that's correct.
This seems a little odd to put money away in case we have flood when we already have damage we need to fix. That we're saying we can't fund.
Yeah, some of it's
During the
beyond
last
just
year-
funding. It's just the magnitude of the project is so large that finding a contractor to do it, and B, really the resources to do it. And whether or not it makes sense. Some of them, like one of them is like Bennett Road up in Lindenville. That whole section is gone. The town has to give permission, and they're just sort of overwhelmed with their own stuff right now. So they don't even want to deal with it. So and we really couldn't afford to fund it either. I think the rough estimate on that was like $80,000. And I don't know if that's to actually fix it right or just to make it quote unquote passable. And there was a couple others that, like the Ferrisburg Bridge down on quarter 7. I don't even know what that would cost. There's already a 72-foot bridge in there and it's not big enough. So what do you put there now in an area that has a 2-week season? What do we want to throw at that? So it's just stuff like that. There's other factors, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I think funding is one, definitely the big one, but there's other factors too, for sure.
Patty, you have Mike Stewart with his hand up and Steve.
Oh, yeah, I see Steven. Okay. All right. Thank you, Cindy. So we'll start with Mike. You're on mute though, Mike.
Let me turn it on.
There you go.
My first question was, what is the difference between capital emergency and capital disaster? And then my second question was to Matt. Matt, are you gonna use all that money? Does it look like there's $681,000 in there? Are you gonna need all that money?
I think we're going to use most of it up. Yes.
Okay. But what is the difference between emergency and disaster? Are they one and the same, or?
Yeah, when the board voted to start those two, they were pretty much one and the same. Disaster you can use disaster as disaster. Disaster is like a flood or a windstorm or whatever. But emergency, you could fund some disaster in there. Emergency could be other things. It could be the roof caving in at the office. There could be a lot of different emergencies.
If I could add that, like last year, right, Cindy, we gave some money to help out the club in Bennington with the emergency startup for equipment.
That's correct. We did. We gave about $8,000 to the club in Bennington out of that. So it's really at your discretion as a board. When you categorize using that money. And the only thing is when you talk about, and Steve might be ready to say this, but the other thing, if you use up all that money, like it's taken us years to build it up, you use it up and then we get hit with another flood. So it's really a discretionary type of thing. when you get into the big numbers. Sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
Okay,
Just want
thank
to
you.
check, Mike, is Mike good? Are you all set then, Mike,
No,
right?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Steven, your turn.
All right. So Cindy, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I just wanted to kind of what's the word? Help alleviate some of the conversation around this. So this is moving money from the profit and loss, or the bottom line for the operating year, to the balance sheet, basically reserving it, saying we had this excess operating gain that we're going to throw into our funds. So whether we spent it or not, that's a last fiscal year thing. So just so there's no more comments on that. But yeah, additionally, what Cindy was mentioning is these funds are reserved for specific purpose by the board. And as you spend them, they disappear. So having them out there prevents a heavy loss one year to the next. And it identifies we have money available if we've gone past our budget. That's more or less what those are for. But yes, thank you, Cindy, for your comment earlier.
Thanks, Steven. Anybody else? Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Oh.
one quick question. We've got some monies being put into some reserve accounts, and I think one of them was for the building. Let's just think about if we were to have an ice storm in January, and we had kind of exhausted all the other funds, but we needed 20 grand to fix a critical area. Could that money that's been earmarked in reserves for the building fund, could we tap that for an emergency trail repair?
Yes, if the board decided to. These are just
Okay.
allocated. It's not
Okay.
a budget that was voted on. So
Okay.
yes.
Great, thank you.
The only one you can't touch, and it's not even listed here, is scholarship, because that's in the bylaws.
Right. Perfect.
Anybody else? Okay, that was a good discussion. So we're looking for a motion. If there's no changes to what Cindy has presented.
Essex County will make a motion to approve the allocations.
Essex in second.
Chittenden would second.
Addison County. Chittenden? Oh, we got Chittenden. Sorry. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Say nay. All right. The motion carries. All right. 2025 committee. Cindy and I went through the committees. So we did get some folks from the outside of the board that were interested in participating in the committees. We did go through this as well with the executive committee last week. So we that would be the officers and Cindy. So we did go through it. So just as at a high level, without going through it all, just Jeff Fay, who's also on the call tonight, is the past president and part of the executive committee. We haven't had somebody prior to that, but it is a spot on there, and he has been participating, so very helpful. Amber will be, as being, the slate proposes Amber as the chair for the scholarships and awards, and we do have Dustin as the director on there. A long range, Mark Reeves has said he's willing to chair that again. We have a few directors on that, and we have a couple of new folks from outside, Mark and Jim. And Jeff Fay wants to be on that committee. Bylaws, Mark is going to chair it again. Steve Conte, your treasurer, is also joining that. And we have one person from outside, and Jeff Fay wants to be on that one. The financial committee, Steve as treasurer is chairing. Carol from Bennington will be the director on that. And we do have two members from clubs that want to be on that from the outside, Ken and Mike. Personnel, Julianne has agreed to chairing that again, and I believe everybody's the same except John Hull is a new addition to that committee. Safety, Stan is going to chair that again. We do have a few directors on there, and we do have two new folks from the outside who are interested in participating in that committee. Law enforcement remained exactly the same. Trails, exactly. Oh, no, Trails, we have John Hull as chair and Mike Burns as vice chair. So we've got those two folks stepping up there, and then obviously the counties are part of that, Matt and Mandy. The annual meeting, Addison and the Addison contacts are on there, and we do have one change for the 2026. Cindy is is going to be New Orleans, right? Orleans County.
Orleans County.
So we did have one change after the fact on that, so that we'll just update that later. And then we have the youth committee, we're putting, the social media committee. Lee Whiting is proposed as the chair. Roger Goslin is the director on that. And then we have three folks from the outside. So it's a brand new committee. Pretty exciting to see what they're going to do. There's some really, based on what they've sent Cindy and I, some nice talent in that pool there too. So youth, we're going to put on hold. Cindy's going to do some further investigation. We did have one family, a father and son, interested in that, but we felt as though we needed to do a little bit more legwork before we really launch that. And then we'll recommunicate that back out to see for fresh interest. But I would encourage you to keep your youth. I know some of you have directors and things like that within your counties, you junior directors, to just keep them in mind. And then at the very back of the package, we added in the affiliate businesses and organizations. So that's where you're going to see the Conservancy and the RRG and Governor's Council. So the list of who those contacts are in those areas if you have to indeed reach out to them. So are there any questions or comments about the committee slate that Cindy and Cindy, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good.
Anybody have any questions or comments? But I'm very excited about it. I'll just say that. All right, I'm gonna look for a motion to accept the proposed slate of committees as presented.
So moved, Orleans.
Orleans, thank you.
Washington will second.
Washington. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Say nay. Roger, I barely recognize you with that hat on. Motion carries. All right. ED spending approval. So I'm going to take the lead on this. This came up at the end of last month's call. I reached out to Jeff. Cindy reached out to Jeff. A bunch of us looking for it in policy and bylaws, and we couldn't find the language. I have no doubt that conversation occurred. There's several people on this board that have collaborated that. The problem is it's not documented. So we need to document what that is and get it into policy. So Cindy's protected and the board's protected, and it just takes any question out of the equation. So I'm going to open this up for discussion. Cindy had said prior to, and those have collaborated with her, there was a $10,000 number previously established by the board some years ago. I'm just going to open it up for conversation at this point to see what people are feeling and have questions for Cindy or anybody. Cindy, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that it wasn't a spending limit on the executive director. It was actually years ago, we used to have a policy for bid process. And at that time, we had closed bids, and I don't know if it's because years ago, Vass sold somebody something and somebody else was mad because they wanted it. But anyway, I went to the board and asked them if they could raise it from 5,000 to 10,000. Because at that point we were buying a truck, we were getting snowmobiles, we were selling some things, and it just takes a long time to do a closed bid process. So I think that's why I had it in my head that, and I'm just really good about not, overspending or sending staff on vacation. Anyway, I looked into a lot of the minutes and I looked in policies that happened before I even started at VAST, and there was nothing in there. And I know that there's some board members here who were at that meeting that night. I believe Rune Gibbs was the one who made the motion to take the bid process out. But that's all I have.
I believe you're right, Cindy.
We have a couple of hands up. So Stephen, looks like you're first. Oh, there he is. You're on mute.
So I just want to make a quick comment. I can't vote for this, but I did want to just make a quick statement. So working in the hospital, The CEO is usually the one who signs off on any large purchases. I would actually liken Cindy's position to the CEO. She's the executive director. The only time the hospital would do a bid process would be for large capital projects or large equipment purchases. If it's in the budget, I'm not one to try to put a lot of red tape in the motion of operations. And that's all I want to put out there is just the more barriers we put up, the less efficient the office at VAS can operate. So I just want you to all keep that in mind as we discuss through this.
Sounds good. Thank you, Stephen. You good? Okay. Jeff?
Hi, we're in good times right now. Cindy's very unbelievably good at her job. Some of you know that I did question some money stuff at the last meeting, and that's because I believe truly in budgets, and I believe that budgets are set up for bad times, not for good times. When we have people that, maybe, and we're very lucky. We haven't had any of those circumstances, and hopefully we never will. But again, I believe we set a budget. That budget is adhered to by the ED. If we need to increase that budget, then I expect that it can be proposed by the ED and we can vote on that. The membership can vote on that. And I have no trouble with that. I just believe budget should be our guideline, and anything above the budget should come to the board of directors. Now, again, if that budget needs to be increased or more money is needed in that area, I have no trouble with that. I just believe that, budgets are set for a reason. If you waive any, I know that $5,000 or $10,000 in the grand scheme of things with us isn't a lot of money, but if we start waiving things, you have to wonder about, why are we setting a budget? Why don't we just have a general fund and just say, okay, ED run with it and just do a good job with it, so I believe in solid budgets, and I think that keeps everybody in line. It's checks and balances to me. And I have no problem with increasing them or just setting them where they need to be, and all agree on that. That's all.
Thank you, Jeff. Roger?
I'm being told by my predecessor that is a control that was set in place just due to the LVRT contracts that were being signed at the time. So they just wanted to put a cap on it. But I agree with Stephen as far as allowing the ED to make decisions and within the budget. She hasn't let us down yet, so I don't know why we need to restrict it more than it is. I get Jeff's concerns, but I don't see where we need to make any changes at this point.
I can't find my hand, but I agree with you, Roger, 100%.
Thank you, John. I think Doug?
Yeah, I just have a question. So right now, where that wasn't able to be found in the bylaws or the policy or anything, how does it exactly stand right now? Since that wasn't in there, Cindy went out and bought some gift cards, and she probably does other things with money at times. How, if we don't do anything, put this way, how does it stand? Does Cindy have authority to go do things like that still, or no?
Within budget.
Well, the approved budget that the membership votes and approves at the annual meeting, she has liberty to spend within those line items, and Stephen reviews those expenses every week. So, I think the budget, and I think it's what everybody's saying, within the budget, and I think Stephen, you said it, let her manage to the budget, no red tape. I think that's what I'm hearing in different languages here, but you know what I'm saying? That everybody's basically saying. I think concern was out of reserves more so than anything, above and beyond the budget. So, but within the budget, she has every right to spend the approved budget from membership. Absolutely. Mike?
So that money that was
ahead.
just spent on the gift cards, did that come out of the reserves or the approved budget?
Majority of it came out of reserves.
It came out of reserves because we didn't have a budget line item for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you that, and the reason I gave last month is that it's very hard for us to go ask businesses, that are hotels and places that often donate to clubs to also donate to us. And I will tell you that we, as a result, I believe of this, we've sold more than $9,000 of advertising over what we sold last year. So it's sort of like the cost of doing business is the way I look at it as a CEO, executive director. But I think it would be very, very hard for any time that I was going to go over budget, because it depends on the income we get from TMAs to come to the board. And I believe also that there's a tremendous amount of oversight. You know, you guys see everything every month. Steve sees everything every week. And then we have auditors, you know, a professional firm we do a single federal audit every year that tell us that we're managing the organization well.
Okay, Mike Burns? Just remember you're on mute.
Just a couple of quick points. One, we need to be careful about talking about policies and procedures to fit a person. They need to be something that'll fit whomever's in that position. So we don't want to get our position, we don't want to set something because of certain person, good or bad. And then also on the spending, I don't have a problem with the spending, but I do think the board needs to make sure that we reserve the right to question what it was spent on. I do think we should have that right. And if there's a challenge there, then anybody on the board should be able to make that.
Absolutely. I agree. That's just another check and balance.
Yeah. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mike. Jim? Remember you're on mute. Oh, there you go.
The question I have is, I agree with the following the budget. The question I come up with is, if there's something that is outside of the normal budget that needs or should take place, should there be limits that allows the ED to make the discretionary decision without a bunch of red tape? And then what would that limit be?
Patty, Steve's got his hand
Oh,
up.
yeah, I was just writing down what Jim said. Go ahead, Steve.
All right, so my concern with some of this, some of the direction the conversation is going along, restricting. So Vast is employing Cindy, and Vast has put faith in Cindy to make the right decisions for the business, for running Vast, and anything that she purchases that she doesn't think the board would agree with, puts her job at jeopardy. And that goes for anybody in that position. And that's more or less my thought on it. And to Cindy's point, the organization is audited, a single compliance audit, which is one of the tightest federal audits. The hospital I work at, I manage a single audit every year. They look at things down to how the funds were used. Did you go to bid for large projects, things like that. But yeah, our finances are open. I review things. I see any transaction right now. I've been reviewing anything greater than $10,000. I'm looking at what it's for. So if I saw something that was a red flag, I would certainly let Cindy know or Sheila know, or anybody else if I don't get any traction, that it didn't seem right to me. It seemed inappropriate. So a lot of these controls and policies that are put in place are meant to prevent fraud. And again, another control on that is Cindy's not going to want to do something that jeopardizes her position, and Sheila is not going to do something that jeopardizes her position. And there's more than just Cindy looking at the transactions. It's me looking at it, and then every month it's our board. We're part of that internal control. As far as a spending limit on non-budget items, I guess we'd have to look at our history. We'd have to see, has there ever been a problem area? That's what policies are for, to prevent prior failures, to internal controls, and prevent future failures. I'm sorry, I'm talking too much accounting, but in any case, that's just my point. Is we've got to be careful to not write something in the policies that handcuffs somebody.
I look back at the last 5 years, and some of it was like when the basement flooded at the office, and we had to quickly get backhoes in there and equipment, and or when the furnace died, or when the septic pump died, things like that we don't budget for, because those aren't annual expenses. So those are really the only things that reserves have been used for, besides going to clubs. And when it goes to clubs, when it's something large, that has come in front of you. Like when we did that fuel increase a few years ago, we gave everybody, like, that's in there. And I'm more than happy to sit down, Steve, with you and go through the last 5 years, you know, so you can kind of see where, you know, I've been, if I have been using reserve funds, where they've been going. And and I'll tell you, and I agree with you that you never know who's going to be in the position next, but that's why you smartly hire, and that's why you smartly interview and all that kind of stuff. You know, that isn't going to be what's going to save you if you have somebody that's stealing from you, but there are so many safeguards here. And I'm the kind of person that I weigh out, am I going to get into trouble for doing this? You know, because I don't want to, you know, and because I take a lot of pride in my job. So, but I that's me, and I get the part about that I'm not always going to be here, but I also think there are so many controls in place.
I would say out of reserves, I've only seen it utilized a few times in the 4 years that I was treasurer. So it is not something that we are utilizing, you know, on a regular basis. It's few and far between. So I would definitely agree with that. Stan?
So my thought is that there was some confusion as to whether or not there was this arbitrary number of $10,000 in place. And after researching it, nobody could find it. And I'm just thinking that it would protect everybody, not the ED, it would protect the association. If there was a question ever raised, if the policy was in place and the ED acted within policy, then even if somebody challenged it, as long as it was within policy, there's no problem. So it protects both sides of the fence in this scenario. So I'm just thinking that having something in place, and that's not for budget items, anything that's in the budget, there's no limits there. It's at the ED's discretion. That's why we have an executive director to manage that and to make the decision so that the directors don't have to. But if it's going to be funds spent from outside of the budget and it's coming out of the reserves, that if there was a policy in place that just protected everybody on both sides, it would probably make sense. It doesn't happen very often, so if there's a need to spend it, I think you could, even if it didn't come at a board meeting, you could do it via an email vote. And I also think that there's also some common sense that needs to be used. Like like the furnace explodes, yeah, you need to fix that. You don't wait for approval. You go ahead and you make the call, you get the work done. At the same time, you send out an email to everybody and said, hey, listen, the furnace exploded. It's going to be $7,000 for a new one. Can I get everybody's approval, or can everybody vote? And I think it'll happen very quickly, but I really believe it protects both sides of the fence.
Thanks, Stan. Stephen, one more time, Stephen. You're on mute, Stephen.
Sorry, I lowered my hand instead of clicking on mute. So Stan, I agree with what you're saying. I think there's multiple funds in the reserves right now. There's the emergency and the storm damage. We were just having that discussion about what those are for. So if we're going to put a limit on certain funds, the reserves in general, maybe we allow free spending from the emergency fund for those situations. The furnace blows up, we need to hire a backhoe, something like that. So that's the reason we have board designated funds. The board can decide what to do with those funds. So if you really want to put restrictions on, give Cindy something that she can go to without recourse for an emergency situation. That's just my last thought.
I see Carol. I see Carol, you're waving, but your hand's up, right?
Yes. So what we do in our organization is we don't have it in our policy. We have a financial resolution that gets approved every year. And in that, there's a whole bunch of different criteria for financial resolution. But like my executive director has a cap of $25,000. So he can spend up to $25,000 without getting approval by the Board of Governors. So we can't, I agree with everybody. You can't put a policy in place that's going to limit Cindy to be able to do her job. Especially, you know, it's easy to say you're going to, you know, do an email to everybody. She may have to make a decision at the drop of a hat. She shouldn't have to be thinking about everybody else and how they're going to feel about it. Her job is to oversee everything to the best of her ability on our behalf. So if there's something that's going to get in place, if you want to put a number, I certainly wouldn't make it 10,000. I would up it to $15,000 to $20,000 so that she's not limited. And do a financial resolution that's approved each year that will give an oversight. I don't necessarily feel I would put it in the policy of the organization.
Now, that financial resolution will be approved by the board, is what you're saying, each year? Yes, sir.
Yes, each year. So when the budget's approved, well, we usually do ours in May, which July 1st is the beginning of our fiscal year. And our resolutions are approved in May for the upcoming year.
Thank you, Carol. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Because if not, we're going to look to, oh, we got Jeff. Then we have, okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I just in closing, I'd like to, I mean, we had a lot of talk about really some common sense things, furnaces, roofs, drainage, but none of that falls into, I just myself don't consider, and I understand it probably, I'd feel better about this if there was an extra $10,000 in promotions and it all came out of promotions and there wasn't this issue, but we're talking about emergencies and then we're talking about gift certificates, and I just can't put them both in the same category. So I just wanted that to be said. And, you know, I think, again, if we want to increase that promotions, because I see that that was a little bit high, you know, higher than normal, and we are doing great things to try to increase TMAs, and I agree with it. I'm just talking about good bookkeeping. And so I just think that maybe we ought to think about maybe increasing promotions next year for the ED. And again, let's really, you know, use some common sense when it comes to using the word emergency, because I don't think gift certificates fall under that category.
It wasn't out of emergency. It was out of special projects.
Okay, but it was out of reserves, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, reserves, but special projects, which is a small line item. It's not nearly the size of emergency. We've used special projects to help. A few years ago when the GPS units were bad the first year, and we needed to hire somebody to go out and check units and pay him. And it, you know, so we took that out of special projects because that was a one-off, you know, expense that wasn't in any line item, but it was needed.
Okay. So we had a lot of discussion. Does anybody want to make a motion? So we can move this forward and vote on it. Unless somebody has a point to be made that has not been made.
I have an idea for you, Patty. Is since Carol is now part of the Policy and Bylaws Committee, she's talking about a resolution. Maybe she needs some time to, maybe the committee should do their work and work on developing a resolution if the board wants to make a motion to do something.
Isn't she also on the financial committee now?
Mm-hmm.
She sure is.
That's just an idea.
Would folks be comfortable with Carol and the team going back and presenting something for us to? Would be more comfortable with that? I'm okay with that. Mark, go ahead.
Trying to raise my hand. I can never find it on
I
Zoom.
saw you wailing, so.
As chair of that committee, I'd rather that be able to come up with meet, and I will send out a meeting notice for this month and try to come up with some language, because I like the idea of the annual resolution saying, you know, we and during this year we authorize, you know, however that wording works out. I'll look to Carol to provide that wording, and it would be more, it will be better thought out, giving some time rather than someone trying to think of a motion to make here. I think so.
I do, and if I could add to that, Mark, I would like Stephen to be a part of that from the financial
Okay.
side of it.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't
That
mind.
makes sense.
Stephen, you're okay with that? You're giving me the nod, right?
Yeah, yeah, I'm
And
okay with that.
I don't know who Vast live stream is.
That's me. That's Beth.
Oh, okay, Beth.
I just have a quick question. I guess I'm just kind of confused what all this discussion over the gift certificates is tonight. I seem to recall at the board retreat this summer that the board approved us purchasing all of these gift certificates. So I guess I'm confused where the board thought that money was going to come from. So that's my comment. And I know I'm not a board member. I'm just a staff member, but
Just. There's no just. I don't remember that personally, but I was also in a different place at that meeting. So,
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Matt, you said something?
I'm trying to think back. I think we might have talked about it, but I don't know that there were any motions or
I don't think so.
anything. So we'd have to look back, but I think we talked about it.
So to move this forward, because we've spent a lot of time on it, I think we have a lot of good input here for the team to look at it. So is anybody opposed to tabling this for the committee, the Bylaws and Policy Committee, along with the input from the treasurer to put something together to bring back to this board? Is anybody opposed to that? Okay.
I'm happy
so
to
then-
make a motion that we table it if you'd like, unless you want to leave it off the table and just do old business.
I'd like
a
to
little
give them a
easier.
month or two to try to put something of meat
Yeah,
together
I would
for us.
do
A month.
old business. I would do old
Yeah.
business, Patty, because otherwise you got to make a motion to take something off the table, put it back on the table.
Okay. So we will move that to old business for next month. Thank you. I appreciate the conversation. I think everybody got enough input in order to do some good work with what you heard from the team tonight. And if anybody thinks of anything else, I would suggest reaching out to Mark Reeves and let him know in advance of his meeting. Okay, good. All right. So Matt, you got Tweed Valley Travelers is looking for a corporate guarantee. So do you want, where's Matt? We want to take that one, Matt? You're on mute if you are. There you go.
Sure. Yeah, they're looking for a guarantee for the $50,000 loan through Northfield Savings Bank. The club sold their 08 Tucker and purchased a 2023 Prenath Husky. The total purchase price was $245,000. They sold their 08 Tucker for $81,500. We provided them with a grant of $56,274, and it appears they're receiving a USDA grant for $60,000. So that leaves them roughly $50,000 left to pay on the groomer. So the number makes sense to me.
So Matt, if you could just, for folks, what is their grooming contract like? And I know Cindy, we talked about what their membership, just so everybody has some idea of what their income is as a club.
I can, hang on.
Anyway, he's looking that up. Do you remember what the membership, where did he go? Membership number was?
I
Oh,
don't,
you're right.
sorry, I have a screaming cat. So that's why I turned my camera off and muted. But I can hear you guys.
And what county are they from? Does anybody know? The Tweed Valley? What
Rutland
director that
County.
is? Okay, Rutland.
But
Mike, do they do,
severe
oh, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead. I'm still.
I was gonna ask Mike, do they do fundraising too, Mike?
Not 100% sure about the fundraising stuff, but they're a very solid club. They're a bunch of straight shooters. I really think if they couldn't afford this, they wouldn't be doing it. So I think they're just looking for a corporate guarantee. It's been brought up to me too by a couple clubs who bought Prenos in Rutland County, Tweed Valley and Mount Holly. Does Northfield actually have an option for extending that loan out beyond 3 years? Does anybody know that? Matt, do you know that?
Tweed Valley.
Yeah, Tweed,
No, bank.
just
Northfield,
Northfield
the bank.
Yeah.
Oh, possibly. I mean, that would be between them and the bank. You know, what
Yeah,
the bank wants to. I would think so, though. I mean, I believe other clubs have extended it out, but usually their loan amount's a little bit more than theirs.
Yeah, okay, thanks for that. As Rutland
Yeah,
County,
I would think.
as Rutland County Director, I don't have a problem with my county signing up for a vast corporate guarantee for these guys.
Right, so Matt, you had the grooming stuff you said too, and then I see.
Yeah, so their startup payment, like their minimum is $13,022 a year.
Thank you, Jeff.
And
Oh, go ahead.
I don't know if there's more information anyone wants. Their cap is 37,206. They're a decent snow club. A lot of their trails are in the national forest. Decent high elevation riding early and late season typically.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Jeff?
I'm just, it looks like their reserve, their guarantee, I guess we're calling it nowadays, is enough to, what's their annual payment going to be on the 3-year term? Do you know? I mean, does that cover that pretty much? So that's pretty safe. It sounds like they're a club in good standing. It seems like they're a reputable club. The only one question I have is the whole thing seems a little cattywampus as far as the way it's worked out. Did they lease this machine, or, I mean, how did they end up with the machine and we're still now talking a loan and they already have the machine? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, they leased it last winter.
Okay.
To try it.
Now they're just trying to pull the deal together, Matt.
I know. Winter
that's
kind of
my
has the
guess.
same
I think
situation.
and I think they wanted to try it out. They were used
Yep.
to a 4-track machine, and they had some folks that liked the 4-track and were nervous about the 2-track. So I think they wanted to try to see if if it would work well for them.
I think
So
it's
without any interest, Jeff, that comes to 16,600 a year. It's the 50K divided by 3. So that's
There
without
they
any
go.
interest
So
or
obviously, I
anything.
mean, it's not far away from their guarantee. I mean, and
Oh.
so a weak year, that's what they're going to have for money, and then hopefully they've got some more money in their funds where they can make up the payments. The other thing to keep in mind too is as things move forward with these browner winters that we've been having, hopefully not this year, that those guarantees aren't always guaranteed to be there in the future. So just another thing to keep in mind. But I mean, it seems like it's one of the smaller ones we've looked at as far as loans go, and it's a good machine and seems like a reputable club. So I would, my thoughts are that it's on the up and up and sounds like a good one to sign for.
Thank you, Jeff. All right. And Roger's asking us, well, you can look it up, Matt, how many miles do they groom? And I'm going to move on to Stephen while you look that up.
Yep. So just a quick calculation of interest. It's about $19,000 the first year for that. Obviously, it goes down as they pay it off, but the first year they would need between 18 and 19,000 to cover the financing of that.
Thank you, Stephen. Mike Burns?
How many clubs will that put us guaranteeing now?
Cindy, you have that list?
I think I actually have a list here.
I don't have it, but I know that a lot left. We're not guaranteeing as much or as many clubs.
Mike always asks this question. We should have had that list. Sorry, Mike. I should have made sure we had that. You always ask that question.
Well, to me, that should be disclosed on our income statement. We have these potential liabilities out there, and we don't disclose them anywhere.
I asked.
I do due diligence all the time, and I would just about blacken somebody if I found out they had these hidden obligations. Didn't show them.
It's spelled out on our audit. It's detailed on our annual audit.
Not in our budget anywhere.
Well, it wouldn't
It's
be in the
not
budget.
Yeah, it's not a budgetary issue.
A potential liability. It should be mentioned as a liability.
Yeah, that would be on the balance sheet and the audit. I haven't read the audit this year, but on the usually in the financial statements, you got notes to financials, and it's like I think I want to say it's like halfway through the audit report. If you look through it, you'll see outstanding liabilities if we have any guarantees out there. Again, I haven't read our audit report this year, but those are the types of things you see in the audit report. Absolutely.
But we shouldn't be asked to approve this without having that information in front of us.
I think Cindy's looking it up.
And I'm not sure everybody.
I have information right here.
I'm not sure everybody understands what happens too if that club defaults. I mean, it's up to the bank. The bank can let us make payments, or the bank can call it that minute. Say they want us to pay 100% of that note right then and there. And
You're
if we
absolutely
don't, they
right.
can put a lien against us. We need
Yeah,
to
we do.
understand
I
what
think
that
it'd
means.
be a good deal if we had a $245,000 groomer for 50 grand. I mean,
No, they're
it's a
going to pay
$245,000 groomer.
yeah. But
I
we
mean,
just need to understand.
that's why it's the loan to value is very small. Is we're not loaning 48,000 on a something that's worth 30. But
But the other debts will have to be paid. If they still owe money on it, we'll have to pay those debts.
Well, the other finances are grants, aren't they, Matt?
I don't know. I don't know what happens on the grants at those default. I don't know that. But
yeah, I don't know. On the
any
USDA
percentage
grant,
of
you
it,
did have to.
any percentage of its outstanding debt will be our debt.
Do you have the mileage? So I can just close out Roger's question before I go up to the hands again.
What mileage did you want?
Contract.
How much what their contract is 2,756 miles.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just curious, like, and Jeff private messaged me and said that weeks don't matter anymore, but it does. I just to kind of show like how often these clubs are grooming. I mean, I guess in the end it doesn't really matter because we're just guaranteeing it and we're not supplying them. Well, they did get a VAS grant, you said, right?
Yeah, 60.
Yes.
So I'm having a hard time understanding why, I've ridden this club's trails before and they are higher elevation and they do a good job, but like why a club that size and with that amount of traffic is buying a $245,000 machine. That's mind blowing to me. And we're trying to consolidate grooming machines throughout the state. Like I don't get it, but I guess it's a moot point because we're just being asked to guarantee it. But I would even hesitate to wonder why we're giving them a grant, to be honest with you. But I guess it doesn't matter.
Oh,
Steven?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to Mike's comment. Mike, I actually agree with you that there is risk involved with assuming the groomer loan. I'm not assuming it, but guaranteeing it basically is what we're doing. We're signing on as a corporate guarantee. But to the other points, the groomer was leased, and it's part of it or most of it's been paid off. We're just covering. Our guarantee is for the remaining portion of it, and I do agree that we should be looking at our balance of any other guarantees we currently have out there to make sure that we have the capital to cover it. But looking at our balance sheet previously, I do believe we have it, but it is a calculated risk. You're correct.
You have something else, Matt?
I don't know unless
Okay.
anybody has more questions.
Does anybody have any other questions or comments on?
well, I have to kind of align with Roger's comments. I mean, one discussion, we're talking about cutting groomer subsidies, reevaluating how much money can turn it around and spending $250 on a groomer, but okay. That's the way it works, I guess.
Well, they replaced the groomer they had that they were sinking money into, so it's not like they added another groomer to our fleet.
Oh.
I don't know.
Okay. There's no other new points to be made. We're gonna need a motion on that one for the club. Who would like to do that?
Chittenden County would move that we approve the loan guarantee.
Chittenden, I need a
Addison
second.
County second. Addison
Addison.
County.
Got it. Chittenden and Addison. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed?
Yes,
Say nay.
Orleans is opposed.
Orleans? Anybody else?
Yeah, Franklin. Had my mute on.
Franklin? It's okay. Motion carries. Okay. All right, Department of Labor letters. This is a much less emotional item than what we've been covering. Just 9,000 letters went out to in the state of Vermont regarding from from the Department of Labor regarding 501c3s and 501c7s. Mandy has put it in 2 separate e-blasts. Just want to encourage you to have your clubs call, whether they're a 501c or not, to let them know if they're not a 501c3 and they don't employ any people, that they are volunteers, that they get removed from the list when they make that call. Otherwise, the Department of Labor is going to continue to reach out to them over and over and over again. So make sure they call. I have the number, if anybody needs it, but I'm sure it's in, on the link that Mandy provided as well. Just take care of that so your clubs get taken off the list and they don't keep getting those letters. That would just be helpful. Okay. And again, Mandy put it in, I know it's in last week's e-blast, so you'll see it there too.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah,
Cindy, anything else you want to add to? Oh, go ahead.
I just want to say, we were asked about that, so yeah, it's good to know. We need to follow up on that.
Yeah, 9,000 letters went out. And I've had a couple of clubs that I know of that have called and they've been very responsive, very quick to take them right off the list and just thanked them. So it's not a browbeating type of situation when you do make that call. It's a pretty easy conversation. Cindy, anything else you want to add to that? Are we good? You're muted. Oh, you're good. Well, you're up anyway. So your early bird TMA sales. So you got to unmute anyway.
Yeah, she finally went in the other room, my cat. Okay, so at this point, we have we've sold 896 early birds. Last year at this time, we sold 1,100 early birds. And the year before that, at this time, we sold 756. So I'm hopeful with the snow we got last night, even though we know it's not going to last. It looked pretty on Facebook, and hopefully that'll help to drive, get people motivated. So yeah, that's where we're at right now.
Well, hopefully with the trailer giveaway and stuff, we get a little better numbers.
Well, I hope so too, but I'm telling you, it's not just us. Like, everybody's down. People are just waiting because it is expensive, and they are more and more deciding where they want to ride. And what happened last year, with the snow in the Midwest and in central Canada, it wasn't, pretty. But anyway, we can do what we can do and keep promoting it. And so clubs, please keep sharing it. As you're posting things about early birds for sale, if you could also put up there about the trailer and the other prizes. If you need the artwork for that, I'll be happy to send it to you. But I did notice today that there are some clubs that are promoting, like, buy your early bird TMA and not mentioning that. So if you'll just help share, I posted it today. If you'll just share, that would be great.
Dustin has a question. He has his hand up, Cindy. Yeah, Dustin?
Cindy, can you just give me those 3 numbers again for early birds? It was 896 this year, and then what were the other 2 previous years?
Last year was 1,100. And 2023 was 756.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions about early bird TMAs for Cindy? Okay. Another light item next. Holiday gathering. You'll notice page 2 or on the back side of your agenda, there's the vast deadline. So this is something that as executive committee, we ask that we put this together to help you guys out. We know a lot of folks have going through the policies and figuring what's due when. This is an outline of what is due when in a bulleted format for your clubs. So hopefully that'll make things a little bit easier for folks to remember dates. So you can share that with your counties. That would be great. And we'll keep that list current. Obviously, if anything changes in any of the policies or bylaws, we have to make changes to this. And also, I don't know if it's done yet, but we'll be posted under the forms tab on the VAST website. So if you lose the paper, you can go to the VAST website to direct your clubs to pull it down as well. So hopefully that'll be helpful for folks with, I know there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, there's a typo.
There's a typo. Yep, I see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And at the very bottom of that section, that's why I brought it up, is the holiday gathering for December 16th. Cindy's reserved the VASA office. All directors and alternate directors, the officers and staff are invited, and she did reserve, with a caterer, some meals, and it'll be at 5:15 for dinner. And then, 6 o'clock will be the meeting. We will offer a hybrid, for those that can't attend in person, still just the same, but, we're hoping that many of you can attend in person. Is there any questions regarding either one of those items? Good. All right. All good. All right, Trails Administrator report. We'll start with Matt first. I know you had a report in there, and I will say, last month, Roger, you asked about the closed trails and stuff like that. I don't know if you looked at Matt's report yet, but he's got some maps in there for you. So, thank you, Matt, for that. I don't know if there's anything else, Matt, you wanted to add.
No, I'm all set.
Anybody have any questions for Matt?
I see the map and I appreciate it. Thank you, Matt, for doing that.
And Mandy.
And
Okay.
Mandy.
Cindy's ED report is also in there. Are there any questions for Cindy? Or Cindy, you have anything else you want to say or highlight out of there? Or are you good?
I'm good.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Cindy out of her report?
I have a question for Matt. Back on the plowed parking lot stuff. So our parking lot in Jeffersonville at Cupboard Deli has been sold. Cupboard Deli has been sold and changed hands. And now the parking area is not part of the store's property anymore. So what happens with potentially adding them onto the plowed parking lot list? Or how do we go about doing that?
Who owns the land?
It's still Dean Decker still owns the land, but he does not own the store or any of the land where the store is now.
Who owns the land where the parking lot is?
Yes.
There's no change in ownership on the parking lot land?
No,
I don't know.
the parking lot land is still owned by the same person, but my understanding before was that he could not be paid to plow the parking lot because he was benefiting from it in his store. And now he is not the owner of the store, so he's not benefiting from any parking there.
I believe the plowed parking lots, is that paid out of SSTP?
Yes.
Okay, so that budget was done July 1st. So that would, I would say that if there's going to be an overage, because that's the state money. So the SSTP, there's two options. Because I don't know, Matt can answer this, but I don't believe there's extra money for additional just plowed parking lots. We talked about high elevation parking lots. So there's two courses of action, I think, would be either to go to the governor's council to discuss growing that, or it would have to be supplemented by a reserve account at this point because the vast budget's already done. So I would.
So that parking lot was not part of the original program or the budget?
No, because he got so much business from selling gas and sandwiches and stuff like that. It wasn't like a gravel pit or whatever. It was an actual gas station where a lot of people go and unload. It's a big parking lot. It's very beneficial to the area.
I believe it's the biggest parking lot in the state, is what I've been told from a lot of people.
Yeah. So that I would say that you might want to, Pat, talk about this at Governor's Council or the board next month to discuss if that was.
We can bring it up at the Governor's Council. We'll just need to know what his charge is going to be.
Okay.
Yeah, there's actually another policy too where it has to go through, I believe, the Trails Committee in June, I think.
Oh, right. Right.
But we can still get a feel from the council how they're open to, if they're open to increasing the budget or can't increase the budget. All we can do is modify it.
Right. Well, the other thing is too, is there's no real money for, well, I guess it could come out of reserves, but we're already using reserve money for that budget. Anyway, that's my suggestions.
So Dustin, you need to get Pat the information he needs for the charges so he can talk about it at council, and then you can bring it back to us and we'll figure out what to do from there. Does that sound like a plan, Dustin?
Yep, that sounds
Pat,
good.
you're good with that?
Yep.
Perfect. Any other questions?
We did maintain a right of way to that parking lot, I'm assuming, or he did maintain a right of way to it, I hope.
Yes, from both sides of it, actually.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. Good question. All right. Committees, okay. Mark, the RRG?
All right, we're getting ready to have our annual meeting, November 7th. Is that the right date, Cindy?
Yes.
Yes, so November 7th. And that's where we are. At that time, we'll review our annual audit. Go ahead.
No, you finish.
I was just gonna say, at that time, we'll review our annual audit as well, and we'll officially name Mike and Dustin to the board.
Patty, I just wanted to add that you'll notice you might come down here and go, well, why does that say vacant for the chair? Or why is that an old name on there? It's because you guys didn't vote for the new chairs until tonight. So just so you know, it's not, those aren't typos. Well, it'll be updated next month for the new chairs that you voted on tonight.
Yep. All right. But the Northeast chapter in USA, Pat, Poland, and Jeff, or Jeff. Okay.
In USA, I don't have a whole lot. It is an election year, so nothing's happening in Washington.
Nothing happens in Washington anyways.
Not anything that's any good, that's for sure.
We're making a bunch of commercials.
They're doing that.
How about the Northeast chapter?
Out of the Northeast chapter, we're going to try to do the ride that we didn't do last year. Somewhere's first part of February, out of Malone, over in New York. So I will keep people posted on that because I know we like to have some directors and stuff join us on that as well. Nothing earth shattering out of the chapter. I do know that the new representative for the Manufacturers Association has been joining the USA meeting on a regular basis and seems to be a little more supportive than Ed Klein used to be. So that's a good thing.
Very good thing.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Hill, Conservancy?
Nothing new to report?
Actually, I got a message today, Jim. I'll be following up with you tomorrow about a landowner in Chittenden County. So let you know tomorrow.
It's one we looked into about a year ago, and then nothing happened, waiting for their lawyers to respond. So sounds like there's going to be some action.
Yeah.
And law enforcement, Gary or Cindy? I don't think Gary's here, so I think that's you, right, Cindy?
Yeah, the committee has not met, but just we have our law enforcement annual orientation this coming Wednesday at the BAST office. And contracts, I am working on them right now. I'm going to have them done for Wednesday because I'll have law enforcement there to sign them, and it just makes the logistics of getting people to sign things a little bit easier. But I don't see any increases or anything, and that comes out of the SSTP.
SSTP. Okay. Awards and nominations, the vacant one, because we voted on that tonight. Mark, the bylaws and policy.
I will be sending out an email to our members, our new members, and looking to schedule a meeting sometime in the next couple of weeks so we can talk about what we spoke about earlier.
Annual meeting now is, well, we don't have Michael and Amber anymore, so now it's Addison. So
Yeah,
Right?
I'll update that, get it out
Yep.
to everybody. It'll be correct next month.
I'm assuming there's nothing there yet anyway, correct? What's annual meeting?
I know that,
I'll let-
Jen, the alternate director, is the lead person for Addison County. I'm sorry, Louis, go ahead.
I'm gonna say Jen can speak up if she's there listening still.
I am. Sorry, I was just on mute.
Okay. You can update them.
Well, there's not much to update. I gotta just waiting to hear back from field days, but that's as long as we can get a spot reserved there, that's the plan. And we should be able to.
That's a great location. I went to the Addison County Field Days this year. It's awesome.
Yeah, we're looking at the Pocket Barn and they have Mike Pocket said that they have tables and chairs and everything. So I personally don't know much about it, but he's done business with them for over the years with Champlain Valley Motorsports. So
cool.
That's the plan.
Thank you, Jen.
Yep.
All right, executive committee. We did meet October 7th and the 21st, and we do have a regular schedule meetings for the remainder of the year. The committee will be meeting, well, we've scheduled to meet a week before our board meeting, so we can go through the agenda and anything else that may be coming up. So we've got all that going on. So we've had 2 good meetings and it's working out really well. So very happy with that. Personnel, Julianne?
No, nothing to add, but welcome aboard, Mr. Hull, and we're happy to have you.
Thanks.
Steve, financial, he kind of, yeah, where is he? Oh, there he is. Anything?
I have nothing. Nope, not at this point.
Yep. I have no doubt you will soon though. Long range, Mark?
Nothing right now.
Okay, resource not active. Trails, John Hall, turn to you.
We had a quick meeting at the annual meeting, and I think out of that is where those maps came from that Matt produced. And it was a short meeting because we were all still trying to get the flood damage assessed. So, and I'm not sure when our next meeting is. I think it's in November.
It's meeting in November. All right. Let's make sure you and Mr. Burns can chit chat. That'd be good. All right. Thank you, John. Safety Stan?
Yeah, we did have a meeting this month, but we did not have a quorum. So really no real business was completed. We have a meeting scheduled for November. Kind of our key points are that update to the online safety class. We have done a e-blast, or not an e-blast, but in the e-news, a call for interest in in-person classes. And I think we've only received maybe 2. So I guess there's not a real lot of interest in the in-person classes. And then I was given a couple of new ideas for some programs or projects for the committee. So we'll discuss that at the November meeting.
Good, thanks, Stan. Mr. Poland, Governor's Council?
I'm just looking for my notes here.
Stan went short tonight. See, he threw you for a curveball.
Let's see, the Governor's Council did meet first Wednesday of the month. We will continue to meet the first Wednesday of every month until June. State Police said there's 4 in-person classes currently scheduled. Fish and Wildlife reported they have a new hire, and that person will begin their training program, so it'll be a while before you'll see them on the trails, but maybe this winter. Southern Vermont, what used to be the Southern Vermont Task Force, is now called the Southern Vermont Wilderness Search and Rescue Team. They're working on their funding and getting schedules in place for law enforcement for this year. DMV, we started talking about the booklet that DMV puts out every year. Making some changes to that. I've got some input from several of the committee, council members, so that's ongoing. That's about it.
Can I just add that the vast events page actually has more than 4 on it right now. So make sure if people are calling your clubs or your county and asking you about the safety courses, right? Just don't forget to tell them to check out the events page on the VAST website, please.
And that is linked with the state police, correct? When you set up
Jacob.
a class on there, it automatically
No, it goes to there. Yeah, it goes to the contact, the description. It can be linked to a website. The safety course is linked.
Yeah, okay. No, I thought that when you set up a safety class on the VAST website, that it automatically ordered the equipment for the instructor.
That is correct.
Well, and Jacob has mentioned it during the safety meetings that he has visibility of the classes, so, and he's aware of them.
And Beth just said that's correct, that it does, there is some trigger there to them, so off that site. I don't know if everybody heard it.
I got an email from
One named Joanna gets
from
CC.
Joanna asking if we needed any
Have to look up the last.
equipment and materials, and we didn't, but she did ask about that once we had uploaded it to the VAST site. So
good.
Excellent. And that's what Beth is saying, Joanna. She's using the same name as you, Mark. Okay, so that's all the committees. Anything else? Does anybody have anything that we did not cover? Something we did cover?
Yeah, Chittenden County would like to make a motion that the board of directors bestow a lifetime membership on past president Jeff Fay for his service to the organization over the many years he's been involved.
Orleans will second.
Okay, Orleans, I heard Orleans and Lamoille, so Orleans seconds the motion, because you made the motion, Pat?
Yes.
And then we went right out with a motion. Is there any questions or comments anybody like to make? All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Congratulations, Jeff Fay. Thank you for your years of service and continued service.
Thank you, everyone.
Much appreciated.
Much
Thank
appreciated.
you.
And Patty, well done for your first night.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. Jeff has been a big help with me and Cindy and the board, so the officer team. So I appreciate everybody's partnership. It really does mean a lot. It makes things a lot easier when we all work together. So I'm very, very excited, and it's been a great start. And I'm glad Jeff is staying involved and joining a couple of committees, and again, part of the executive team to help guide me. So thank you to everybody. I appreciate you all. I know you're all volunteers spending another night out for snowmobile stuff. So thank you. It doesn't go unnoticed for sure. Cindy and the staff for all the hard work. I know this is your ramp up time to real craziness. So thank you. And with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn at 7:29.
Washington County will make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Addison.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody opposed and want to hang out, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Have a pleasant evening.